Hello, bonjour. Today I'm going to take you on a quick tour around our little village as promised. The weather's a bit rubbish really, it's a bit grey and I've just come out while it's dry and we'll just take a slow hobble round. My boot's still on. Okay, let's get moving. Okay, let's just show you on the map where we are. There you can see Mayenne. Here we're just panning round from the front of our house. Most of these neighbours we get on pretty well with, and the lady in the house with the brown shutters is always very good to us. She keeps an eye on the house and takes the post in for us occasionally. And there's a garage there on the left you can see that she lets us use. She just gives us the key and just said to use it. Didn't want to take any money. That's our church, l'Église Saint-Martin. That church, they started constructing that church in 1768 and didn't finish it until 1900, so it's a very long time. The church tends to be only now used at Christmas, possibly when there's a concert with the children from the school sing and play their instruments and things, so it's quite nice. And then we have van show, like hot wine and some little pastries. And I have to say though, you have to remember to take a cushion because the pews are very hard to sit on. But yeah, so there's not, you don't seem to see any funerals or weddings there now. I think most of these services end up going to Chateau, which I've taken you to. On the left there you can see a white van. I'll explain that in a minute. But this tree is the same tree that we planted two of in our garden because they're beautiful flowers, and we've ended up digging one up now because it was diseased. The van on the left there is good news to us because them two houses on the left have finally been bought. We were starting to think they were just going to start to fall down, but now new windows and new doors are going in, so we couldn't be more pleased. And it's in quite a prominent position, so for that to fall them down and be messy just wouldn't be nice. This road you must recognise. I've been up there several times. I'm just panning around showing you where the bar is at the end of this road. And now we're taking a stroll up towards Sharon's house, and on the left there's a house with a little farm machineries at the front. That's been empty for a very long time. I'd love to see inside it because I dare say it's probably still got the furniture in, which is quite common. If a house has been where someone's died, the house hasn't been emptied and it's just full of all the original things of whatever they left in there. It's sad really, but it's interesting. That's from the other view. And now the house I'm talking about is on my right, and that's the window. Looks like it might be broken on the end. That house on the left with the broken shutters next to Sharon's has been empty for a very, very long time. I've never seen anybody go in there, and it's never been for sale. So there's obviously a family dispute or something going on, or it could just be sentimental reasons. So a quick shot there of Sharon's garden with the chicken coops waiting for new chickens. Some of you know that she had to get rid of her last two chickens. See the hedge on the left in front of us has been trimmed very, very neatly. The French do like a nice boxed hedge, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got a spirit level out to make sure they're nice and flat. But it's just as well they do it on this road because it's a very narrow road and you wouldn't be able to get cars through there if they just let it grow. Lots of autumn leaves on the floor there as well. Autumn's upon us. This house, a very nice house. Gate with a nice gates around it and everything. That's owned by a local physiotherapist who works out of Chateau Health Centre. Show more of the boxed hedging. And just up there on the left, between two houses, is our Marie's office, the Mayor's office, which is where Duncan and I got married in 2018. Now we're viewing the other way again, down towards Mayenne. On the left there is a walled garden that Sharon's neighbour keeps his chickens in. And that is a beautiful garden that's owned by the village caretaker. say, that walled garden where Sharon's neighbour keeps his chickens is on the other side of the road to where he lives. It's quite common in the countryside that gardens aren't necessarily attached to your house. There's a lot of old properties, unfortunately, empty in the village. It's where family members have died and the rest of the family aren't really wanting to take the property on because they want to be in the big towns where the work is. You know, we would like to see them looking after them more because we don't want them falling apart, and it's devaluing it every day that something else breaks on it. These houses, this one, the first one here is empty. The second one was owned by English, but they now put it back on the market. The one on the right there is a house that I spoke about recently that went up for auction for €12,000 and it still didn't sell. If you're going to buy a nice, good, cheap property here, you need to have the money to restore it. It's worth it in the end, but you've got to have that money. These houses on the left here are occupied as far as I'm aware. It's hard to tell sometimes because a lot of the houses, as you're probably noticing, have their shutters down. They don't always bother to open them, which is sad. This is obviously the other side of the church, and I painted this. You probably saw on SFrance if you've been over to there. That was one of my paintings. The road sign there showing the way to Poulay and Champion and the Auberge. The Auberge is our local restaurant. Poulay is our sister town, and Champion is the town it's just beyond Poulay. It's a nice little garden that our caretaker of the village maintains. I've often thought it'd be nice to have table and chairs there and like connected to the bar, and it'd be nice to sit there with a beer or a coffee. House on the right there was up for sale for quite a few years, probably still is. It was up for $28,000 at one point. It makes such a lovely little holiday home. This is the road, as you saw on the sign, to Poulay. You see, we've got very narrow pavements, and I think that's because, I mean, obviously once upon a time there never used to be pavements. And they've put pavements in but couldn't make them too big because now, once, you know, as time went on, cars got bigger and they found they needed more road space, and you get a lot more cars around than you will people wandering around generally. I'm saying it's a quiet village generally, but it probably is busier now than it used to be years ago before we got more and more cars. This house on the left that was owned or is owned by the chef and his wife from the Auberge that I was just talking about. This piece of land on the left here has been up for sale for a very, very long time. You can tell by the sign outside that it's faded, and it's a shame because it would be a nice piece of land. You could have your house back off the street with a nice bit of land in front. I don't know why it hasn't sold. There's complications surrounding it. Now just approaching the village, or at least one of the village crosses. Being a Roman Catholic country, everywhere you go you're seeing crosses, and there'll be little, there'll be churches, there'll be little chapels, there's somewhere everywhere for you to pray if you wanted to. Unfortunately, it seems to be the older generation that do still pray. The younger generation, from our experience, don't tend to practice Catholicism as they used to. I know our neighbours especially don't. That's a newer housing estate. It's been there a long time, but it's newer compared to the rest of the village. You see there again, the shutters are shut, but we know that people are around. This is the sound effect. It's taking a long time to renovate at the moment. They're just putting a new roof on and extending it. That is where Duncan and I had our wedding reception there in 2018. That's the only bus stop for our part of the village. That's where the school bus will stop. You can jump on the school bus should you want to go into May Inn or somewhere, wherever it is the bus is going. You are allowed to share with the school children, but generally you need to have a bike or your own car, or you rely on your friends and families to get about. Nice little spot to have a picnic. This was one of the first places we went to when we first bought the house. Because we've got a good view, you can see there, but obviously, as you saw before, that's also now where we have to go to do our recycling. Beautiful view. We couldn't believe it when we first turned up, because turned the corner from where we used to live and it was just a busy town. We overlooked the Thames River, but it was a busy town. But we just loved it. We just turned the corner and said, whoa, you know, it was so lovely. This is something you'll see in a lot of towns as well, a bull pitch or petanque. A lot of the older generation like to play that through the summer, and it's just a nice social event. That's the back of the side of it. As you see, it's still being done. I don't know when they're going to finish it, but no doubt it'll be lovely when it's finished. Just having a bit more of a stroll. Walking away now from the Salle de Fête. If you carried on round to the left there, you get back to the main road and you walk down to Poulay. Here we're going back towards the centre of our village. It's a nice little walk. If you've got a dog, it's a nice place to take your dog for a walk, or just a nice, on a dry day, summer's day, whatever, it's just a nice little stroll away from the road. Duncan's been doing some of the filming for me because I'm still hobbling around on my boot. And it's quite hard to keep a nice steady film. So we're still wobbling a little bit, but so it's hard. But we want you to experience walking with us though as well. So the field that's on the left there is usually full of maize during quite a lot of the summer season. Maize is corn, for those that don't know, not sweet corn. They grow corn here mainly for feeding the animals. If you tell the French that you eat corn, they just think you're mad, because it's not. They just see corn, sweet corn, as something the pigs eat. But we try and explain to them how we love it, grilled or baked with lashings of butter on it, and they like the sound of it, but whether they'd actually eat it, I don't know. The little pathway in front of you is, like you can see just past those houses on the right, is where it comes out to the centre of the village. That's someone's barn. Just taking in the view again. So when I left the house, as you heard me say, I thought it was going to possibly rain. It was so grey and horrible, but the more we walked, the more the sun came out. Walking now further towards the road, as it were, and we're still behind the houses. I'm not sure who live in these houses. We may well know, but obviously we haven't been in absolutely every neighbour's house, so we don't know where they'll live, and we tend to socialise with them at the music events and things in the village. And the New Year's drink, when we get together with the mayor and the village, all come together to have a drink once a year, so we see them then. They're always amazed at the English or anybody else buying. They think we're mad, really, but they don't realise what we've come from and how much we benefit from living here. On the right hand side is some pieces of land that Duncan and I were wondering if it used to be our garden. When we bought the house, our garden was on the other side of the village, and it was at the end of someone else's garden. And the man was in the military and he wanted to square his garden off. We'd never even seen it, let alone think about using it, so we sold it to him. So we're curious whether any of these pieces of land we're walking past used to be, or what would have been, our garden. So we're lucky that our garden, the piece of land that is now our garden, came up for sale and we were able to buy it. Now we're walking further along towards the school, and this on the right is the little sort of potager, little allotment that the school children, the primary school children, grow herbs and plants and things on, and That's their compost bin. And I think it's lovely that the children get the opportunity nowadays to grow plants and things. We didn't at school. We talked about it, we drew pictures about it, but we never actually got to do it. I think it's lovely. It's important that they learn how these things happen and that they can benefit by growing their own food and things. A nice bit of blue sky I wasn't expecting. That there is the back of the school. The school has about 38 children in it, with 2 classrooms and 2 teachers. We thought we were going to lose the school at one point because a lot of the schools in the area were consolidating and some have had to take their children elsewhere because it wasn't viable to keep the schools open. There you can see mistletoe, some of you may know, and the mistletoe here is called du gui. It's a disease for the trees, but it's great if you need some fresh mistletoe for Christmas. It's more of the beds that didn't exist before the new road layout was there. And that car park is a new addition to the school. We've got so many flower beds now, it's really lovely. It wasn't like that before. It's more work for the caretaker, but the village has really benefited from it. You see Duncan's filming there because you can see his shorts flapping in the wind. Over on the left here is our local cemetery, as you can see. There's another cemetery connected to the town really, but it's in Poulay and it's more or less opposite the church there. That's again, that church isn't used either really, but they have, I think, desecrated the church, I think they call it now, and it's used for other things, for not quite sure what, but it's the animations team, as it were, have taken it over now, and there's things more to do with people with crafts and things. Now we're walking further towards the centre. A lot of the houses on the left here were empty and they've just recently sold this year. That's the front of the school, the Lucy Albrack school. Yeah, as I was saying, some of these houses have sold recently. We lost neighbours a few years back and the families of those have now sold those ones on. That's where our neighbours, close neighbours, Leon and Natalie live. Leon was one of the witnesses at our wedding. I think, as I say, the 2 most recent houses that have sold on this part of the road, I think, have been sold to Parisians. And that is quite common now. Since COVID, a lot of Parisians have been buying properties in the country. Now approaching the church. Some of the lovely additional flower beds we've got it in the last few years, all growing up lovely now. It's the front of the church. Still the railings and the railings on the steps didn't used to exist. They're all new. And they've now put posts in so that people can't park in front of the church. That's our bar. Not open on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday. It's always been that way. You can have a coffee or a drink at the front of the bar or go to the back and you can buy your necessities. Although he's selling up soon, and at the moment he's not selling bread and dairy. So there we go. I'm a bit windswept, a bit rosy cheeked, but I hope you enjoyed that. And I shall see you in the next video. Bye. Au revoir.